And welcome to Basic Binges here on the Nom Talk Network. I am excited for today's show. Before I get started, I want to apologize for my quality and my weird horizontal or portrait visuals. I'm actually broadcasting live from the Century City Mall in my car after coming from a dinner. So apologies for that. But that was not going to stop me from talking about the 20th anniversary of one of the greatest movies ever made, my personal favorite movie of all time, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. So if you are joining us on Twitch, just know how very special this movie is to all of us on this call. I could not do this. I could not host this by myself. So I am here with an esteemed panel of terrific human beings who also love this movie just as much as I do. And let's get right to them. We've got Kyle Poddig on the call. Hey, Kyle, how you doing? You wanted to introduce yourself?
Hey everybody, I'm Kyle, and tonight's food is the most odd and manic thing I could think of, which is blueberry waffles. Um, but I'm this is okay. So I had heard of this movie. It has been beloved of my family, and I'm really excited to talk about it tonight because I'm just really excited. I'm intrigued as to where this is going to go. But it's nice to see everyone. Hello, hello.
Amazing. Thank you for the lovely introduction there, Kyle. We've also got Erric on the call. How you doing, Erric? Do you want to give a quick intro?
Yeah, no, I'm Eric. And tonight I am eating cheese spread stuff because that's what I had, and then drinking water because I'm severely dehydrated.
Understandable. Yeah, hopefully you get a little bit more hydrated there, buddy, and always good to have H2O with you. Perfect. And last but not least, we've also got Alejandro on the call with us. Hey, Alejandro, you want to give yourself a quick intro?
Hey, yeah, I'm Alejandro. I got 3 today. I gotta stay hydrated, like Eric said, because I've been drinking way too much soda, like this cool Japanese exclusive imported Pepsi. And then also I'm having with me some delicious, tasty, delicious chicken chow mein over here, which I'm gonna well, lo mein, sorry, which I'm gonna be munching on, hopefully not slurping too loud. So yeah, already.
Amazing. Well, I'm really excited to have you guys here with us. Just out of curiosity, this is literally my favorite movie of all time. I really want to hear where it ranks for everyone. And I think to do that, we're gonna have to get into the popcorn rating meters for every single person on this call. Before I do that, I also just wanted to say I am drinking a Mountain Dew Baja Blast that I've actually had with me since lunch. I hope that that's not gross, but whatever. Mm, Still tastes good to me, so I don't give a crap. And also, my popcorn rating for this is 5 out of 5. This is the epitome. This is the reason why the term masterpiece was created. I think Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is literally the greatest movie ever made. Expertly directed by Michel Gondry, whose visuals complement the phenomenal script by Charlie Kaufman, one of the best screenwriters working today, if one of the most weird ones working today, too. But that's not a bad thing sometimes because we need people like Charlie Kaufman, like Michel Gondry, to re-envision the world in a way that we've never seen it before and to take us to places and locations and settings that we don't ordinarily go to with films, regular films. And with Eternal Sunshine, he does so. They do so by taking us into the human memory, basically, and not just the human memory, but visually the human heart at the same time, visually and emotionally. So for me, this is a 5-star popcorn rating, and I want to go around the table and see what everybody else's ratings are. Alejandro, I'm going to start with you. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. What's the rating for you?
I'm gonna guys throw you guys for a little loop. Before I rewatched this, I didn't even mention this to producer staff because I didn't want to seem biased. And I really want to try to justify this film here. Before I even seen this movie, I would have gave it a 1 out of 5. Reason being is because I had the movie associated with an ex. I was being pushed the movie onto me at the time being, and I felt like it was being overtly artistic when I saw it. Once again, at the time being, I was extremely biased. I was probably a little more angry than I should be. So actually sitting down, rewatching the film, and giving it open minded, it is a 4 out of 5 for me now. Excellent film in that regards. There are some complaints that we'll go into a little later. But my first introduction to the film was not the greatest, but luckily over the time and passing and so forth, when I heard that this was be popped up on a discuss, I wanted to give it an even a fair watch, and I liked it a lot more than I expected. So yeah,
amazing. All right, Eric, what about you? Out of 5 popcorn ratings.
I give it a 4.5. I've always liked it. I remember watching it when I was younger. And definitely score was definitely way lower back when it originally came out for me, just because I don't think I was quite there with like Alejandro said, kind of like artsy stuff for the film. But I went back, watched it, and loved it. For some reason, though, I thought this movie was being John Malkovich. Don't know why. Always thought it was that, and then now it's not. And I was like, oh, I like this movie. But yeah, 4.5. It's a great movie. Could you always do a little better?
What's that?
It could always do a little bit better, but a great movie.
Well, they both were written by Charlie Kaufman, so yeah, I can understand it. Yeah. Being John Malkovich was Charlie Kaufman and Spike Jonze, and it's also a surreal in a lot of ways. So I get it. Kyle, what about you?
So my rating is a 4 out of 5, and I will tell you why. One of the best parts about being in this group is that you get to volunteer to see movies that you've never really had a chance to watch. I had a chance to watch this in its entirety for the first time, and it's funny that Alejandro mentions the thing with an ex, because my mom was in the middle of a similar situation with an ex, and this whole movie's concept of how two people can fall in love, I never wanted to be interested in it. I never wanted to be interested in that level of detail and that level of romance until I watched this. I cried like a baby. It's a 4 because I have some. It's a 4 because I have some issues with Clementine that we'll get into it a little bit. Nothing bad. Just 2000s, 1990s, 2000s artsy. But this is beautiful. I will agree with you. I will echo what you said on one thing. This is the reason why Masterpiece is created. And this is the reason. This is what Hollywood should be. Movies like this. Like, this is what film is.
Yeah. I mean, this is a brave and out there movie. For me, it's a masterpiece, because name another movie like this out there. And granted, yes, you have a lot of movies that are it's often duplicated in terms of the visual style. And if you focus solely on the visual style, yeah, you could say people are just doing things for the sake of having things be weird and surreal for the sake of being weird and surreal. But more than that, this combines the surreal and the abstract with something that I think is actually incredibly relatable, because to me, it's not the visuals that make this a masterpiece. It is the heart of this movie. It is the humanity of this movie. This movie speaks to the human experience of potentially love and loss. I mean, like, maybe it's not everyone's story, but I can guarantee that at one point or another, if you've ever fallen in love or felt heartbreak, you felt the way that these characters have, and the way that they, experience the bitterness of the breakup, but also get constant reminders as Joel is going through his own memory of why they got together in the first place. There's something hauntingly beautiful about all of that. And the way that it's told in the nonlinear backwards fashion is the only way that you can get the character on the journey from horribly angry and bitter to this is part of me. This is an experience that has made me who I am today, and one that I was lucky to have, regardless of how it ended. So that to me is why this is a masterpiece. I think it touches my heart in every single way. And I think I've been there. The opening lines of this movie are, random thoughts for Valentine's Day, 2004. Today is a day made by greeting card companies to make people feel like crap. We've legitimately felt that at one point or another, I think. And that's, from the opening lines, this movie just spoke to me every moment of the way, regardless of how weird and trippy it got. I think it was one of the first movies that I watched all the way through. And after finding out how everything plays out, I needed to rewatch it again immediately after, because it comes together so beautifully and so perfectly for me at the end, that I just, it means everything to me. And that's why I really felt I needed to host this one, and why it's a 5 for me. I'd love to kick it to everybody and just kind of describe what you guys felt feeling it, what maybe some of the shortcomings were as well, because 4.5 and 4 out of 5 great scores. But I'm curious to see where it hits for you guys and where it doesn't hit for you guys. I'm going to start with Erric, with you. 4.5 out of 5 is a really wonderful rating. What worked, what didn't work, and how did you feel when you first watched this?
I really liked it. The pacing for this movie, for me, was a little bit off, just because it moves so slow in some parts. But other than that, like, the acting is phenomenal. The script, the cinematography, everything about this movie was beautiful. I've watched it a couple times since we were supposed to do this last month. But my issue really is the pacing on some parts of it, but also Elijah Wood's character, for me, just like creeps me out. And I don't think, like, I get it for the time that it was done, but I feel like the character, things have definitely changed over time, obviously. And it's not, some of the stuff he does is not okay with me. So that's why I put it down a little bit lower, but it's still a great movie.
But I feel like you're not supposed to be okay with it, right? Like,
Yeah.
he's a creep even in 2004. More of an antagonist than anything, because and that's the whole thing that Clementine kind of recognizes something's wrong. The second that, he says the lines of Joel where he says, if I just died today, I'd be happy, and I never felt that before. It triggers her to go, like, I want to go home. Something's not right about this. He's definitely a creep, and that's, none of what he's doing is okay, but that is kind of the point of the character, right? Like, it's definitely the inciting incident that triggers her memory to seek out Joel again, I think, as it were. So yeah, totally creepy. I totally get that. Yeah. Anything else that you wanted to add to that?
No, that's pretty much it.
Cool. Alejandro, what about you?
This thing was like a poetic fever dream, and I mean this in the most positive way. I say this as in almost like organized chaos. If you have any appreciation for, I would say, art, or any form of art, or any form, I would say, of something that's thinking out of the box, I think you could take something positive away from the film, especially coming the concept of that we all have evolved to had heartbreak, whether it is friendship, whether it is romance, whatever it is, whether you like it or not, we've been scorned in some sort of way, and we felt that, so this film, when I initially watched it, I thought it was just like, more of a, woe's me, whiny kind of concept. But then the second go round, being open-minded and actually just taking it in, it's just taking, you on a path through someone's pain. And it's kind of crazy, because given that we have characters like Clementine, and given that, how, my frustrations with Clementine, my frustrations with Patrick Wirtz, which is Elijah Wood's character. I mean, in my opinion, hypothetically speaking, if we're going to take Jim Carrey. Wow, sorry, I said Jim Carrey's character, Joel, making him the starting point, and I would say taking Tom Wilkinson's Dr. Howard Mayer's character and making him the end point. I believe the whole cast is almost some wave of each other going from one point to the other. There's almost like a form of they're all the same person, but in a sense, like, I would say they just took that further step of doing something I would say more sinful in a sense. I don't want to spoil what we're about to talk about, or if any future things we're talking about, but everybody's actions seem to be a little heavier as they go down the line. I think, but once again, the only reason why I gave it a 4 out of 5 was mostly because I call it a poetic fever dream. The only reason why I'm saying this is that I think, and this is where I'm gonna end my opinion on this here, and I'll pass on the next person. If Jim Carrey was not Joel Barish, this wouldn't have been the same.
I agree.
It
Yeah.
would not been the same any way, shape, or form, and that's why I'm getting this film a 4 out of 5. It would I don't think it would, and this is coming from somebody that I thought he was. I still do. I think he's a comedic genius, and we understand now that he's been going through heavy cases of depression and him being very open minded out to the public of who he is and what he thinks of Hollywood what it was and what it currently is and how his life is. So there's a lot of things you could dissect from there, but considering the fact that he's always been a comedic icon, seeing him come in this role was concerning yet so freaking impressive. And the only reason why I would downgrade this film by 1 star at all is because I do believe if there was another lead character, maybe it would be as good. I'm gonna say maybe, but I feel as if it'd be a little more unorganized. I believe I heard what one of you three mentioned before, the way it was filmed, being shot in different directions, which artistically so it needs to be done that way. I think it's great to express where it's at, but I feel as if Jim Carrey wasn't that like powerhouse to be there to express that, it'd be a little more confusing. But other than that, I freaking loved it.
Yeah, and Alejandro, I love that you brought it up because I'm going to here's what I'd love to do. Kyle, I definitely want to get to your popcorn rating, how you felt and everything like that, but I'm also going to mix casting into that as well. And then Erric, I'd like to revisit you on the casting subject too, because what Alejandro brought up is essential to this movie, which is the casting of it. And you can't talk about what works in this movie without talking about the phenomenal cast. It's part of the reasons why I think it influences our overall ratings of this movie. This to me is the quintessential performance of Jim Carrey's career. This is the most people will look at Truman Show. Most people will look, of course, at like Ace Ventura and the Mask. Phenomenal. This is a role we've never seen him do ever in his career, and he knocks it out of the freaking park. And it's unfortunate because he didn't even get a single Oscar nomination for this. And lesser performances this year, like Johnny Depp in Finding Neverland, which I'm not a snob, it's not a terrible performance. Did that need to get nominated over this? No. God, no. But it did anyway, because at the time people were riding the Johnny Depp train. But that being said, this is, in my opinion, the best performance of Jim Carrey's career. And I 100% agree with you there, Alejandro. Throwing casting into the mix now as well. Kyle, with you, expectations on this movie, how you felt watching it, shortcomings and strengths, as well as your thoughts on the casting. I'd like to kick it to you now.
So one of the things that I was talking to Alejandro and Erric and Stephanie before you popped on. One of the things that this weirdly reminded of, it wasn't in terms of drama or like dramatics or in terms of plot, but just in terms of subject matter. This reminded me of Apple TV's Severance. And so here's why this when you said Jim Carrey, I agree, because Ben Stiller, who one could argue is a Jim Carrey contemporary, is who gave us Severance. So when you have people who are in a very real, in order to really plumb the depths of the darkness of the human mind, I think honestly you have to look at it through a lens of laughter, because otherwise you're gonna push yourself into a space where you're not comfortable. And to have people who are so used to being happy, it's a demonstration of their talent. It is a demonstration of Jim Carrey's talent that he was willing to embrace his mental health so intensely for this, and that every member of the cast was willing to really dig deep into how I'm not gonna lie, I want to keep going with the positives, but the negatives were that my rating is a 4.5 because number one, it made me really sad, in a happy way. It made me really sad in a happy way, and also I wish that, I don't know. The narrative was good to Clementine, but I wish that it had been kinder. As someone who lives, and I'm not ashamed of it either, as someone who lives with issues similar to hers, even if they're not explicitly addressed, I was reading up about this, and it was like she's kind of written with those, like manic pixie dream girl vibes and things. And as someone who lives with those kinds of issues, I wish that the narrative had been kind to her. And I don't know. I would have liked it is Joel's story. I would have liked to have seen more of her.
Understood.
I get that too as well. I don't mean to interrupt, but it
Yeah,
felt like I get the vibe from her, almost the same vibe I would get from Scott Pilgrim versus a World when they actually have his love interest in there. Hypothetically speaking, you look at there and the character didn't do anything wrong, technically.
No.
What I mean by that, Joel didn't do anything wrong in that aspect of it, but I feel like they didn't write enough of a script for her, so to speak. Sorry, I'll shut up. Sorry.
No. I love the conversation, honestly. I'd like to defend that stance, but before I do, I'm gonna kick it to Erric because I haven't Erric, I wanted to ask you about casting character too. Since we heard Alejandro touch on casting and Kyle, of course, I didn't get a chance to ask you that. So from a casting standpoint, anything on your end? Do you agree kind of with Erric, with Kyle and Alejandro about kind of the casting, Clementine's character, all of that?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree that I really wish that Clementine would have gotten more developed and had more stuff to deal with that a little bit more. But the casting, especially at this time, they got like the major hitters like Jim Carrey, Kirsten Dunst, all of them. And like exactly like how Alejandro was saying, like I could think of some people that maybe could like interchange out, but it wouldn't have been this good of a movie. Like all of these people work well together and they got it because this is all in their wheelhouse that they keep doing in before and after. So it was just perfect timing for them to cast these people, and you can't get anything better than that.
You know what's interesting when you brought that up is I was thinking about like how when you said heavy hitters, Kirsten Dunst, not Kirsten Dunst, Kate Winslet.
Kate Winslet, yeah.
Kate Winslet was, she's Clementine. She has, you've seen her in roles, but at the time, like, I don't know. I feel like she never really has escaped, for me at least, Rose from Titanic. She will always be Rose. She will always be the door. But she's played those unobtainable figures before.
Yeah.
And seemingly unobtainable. She's played those types of figures before. So to cast her really was an inspired choice. And I don't think you could have cast anybody else because she that's the kind of character that she is. And even today, I cannot think of the last thing that she was in. Has she done anything recently? But she's still like,
I mean, she
was in an HBO miniseries recently, I think, called The Regime, I think.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
She's an icon, and I really do question, and I pose it to the panel. Do you see her as anyone else? Because I might be wrong. Do you see her as anyone else but Rose?
Yes.
Okay, Mike.
Yeah. Well, I'm a little biased because I have seen her as a rebel on some sci-fi stuff in a sense in there. But I mean, just to piggyback off a little bit off your same point though. I mean, if we even look at the cast, such as like the relationship that Mark Ruffalo and Kristen Dunst have, both of those characters are freaking ridiculous. They like. Given that we all know that Kristen Dunst was like a powerhouse in the 90s, like I'd say 90s to 2000s in my sense of being just the name that you'd see, a face that you could trust, something as a group of kid. I had a big crush on her back in the day. But the big thing about that is the fact that I just feel like, her being, in her unaware situation, her being clueless about what's going on, her actually being an example of it, of the program being successful in a very, very horrible way. And I just felt like, particularly that character. And I'm not trying to harp on it too much because given I think her character maybe has like 15 minutes lines worth of lines throughout the whole film, but those 15 minutes where the lines are freaking hella powerful. And I was really, really impressed with that concept again. Just to piggyback back up what you're reiterating about, Kate Winslet, about being her character, who she is, if we can measure being anything else. But once again, sorry to hijack the conversation on that.
No. Yeah, I mean, for me, she is Clementine Krasinski is the defining character for her. She also did just an amazing job in Steve Jobs, which was a really great performance from her, both of which she got nominated for Oscars for. She's just, for me, I do think that she is kind of a chameleon. So I really loved her performance. I do understand why you're making the comparisons between Rose and Clementine. I honestly don't think that they could be more different.
Okay.
And in my opinion as well, I'd like to address the, if I may, the label of manic pixie dream girl when it
Sure.
comes to Clementine Krasinski. I think you also compared and associated that label to, rightfully
I
so,
yeah, I bid that
to
one to the Scott Pilgrim character. I started
yes.
that whole concept, so that was my fault. I initially
No,
made
no, no, no,
the
no.
yeah,
I think
yeah,
Kyle also mentioned Manic Pixie Dream
yeah,
Girl, and then you also rightfully, as I was going to say, labeled Ramona Flowers that way.
yeah.
Here is the main difference between the two, though. Clementine has her own motivations. She has her own desires. She has her own thoughts. She is not just a MacGuffin. The whole reason that their relationship starts to go sour is because they have a complete falling out about that starts with a conversation about her wanting to have a kid, something that Joel didn't want to do. And Clementine makes her own like definitions, opinions, everything. There is probably one of the best scenes in this movie is the scene in Barnes and Noble, which is the second time that they're meeting. And she literally says, in probably some of the best lines ever written in a screenplay, I'm just a fucked up girl looking for her place in the world, looking for her own peace of mind. Do not assign me yours. That is the primary difference between her not being a manic pixie dream girl and every other manic pixie dream girl who is assigned the peace of mind of the male protagonist in those movies. If you take a look at Garden State, which is kind of the quintessential example, as written in Entertainment Weekly, about where the term manic pixie dream girl came from an article by, I want to say Liz Miller or something like that, who wrote about Manic Pixie Dream Girls in 2004 and used two examples, Natalie Portman's character in Garden State and Clementine Krasinski. She said
Huh.
that Clementine does not fall into that definition because explicitly Clementine defines her needs, her wants, and her motivations, and they are not a result of Joel idolizing her or idealizing her or anything like that. She is a real world individual and explicitly tells Joel that she is not a concept. She is not a concept, even though Joel thinks of her as some. So Joel is in the wrong, but we know as an audience, especially from Clementine, Clementine's character and Kate Winslet's performance, that she's going to do whatever she's going to want to do. And she's going to want whatever she's going to want. Her roles and her motivations are not defined by what Joel wants for her, versus Garden State, where Natalie Portman's character is literally just there to help define Zach Braff's character. That's all she is. And Ramona Flowers, who's there as the MacGuffin for Scott Pilgrim as well. So a character that's meant to define an entire character's life versus a character that is telling the other character, I'm not here to define your life. I'm just a regular person, and trying to make my way in this life. That's the huge difference between why she is not a manic pixie dream girl, why she's not a Ramona Flowers, but then everybody else who has come after her actually is. So that's why that's the milk box or the soapbox that I'm going to step down from.
No, no,
But
no.
yeah,
It's not a soapbox. May I offer a not rebuttal necessarily, but a different viewpoint that sort of confirms what you're saying, but also confirms what Alejandro and I are hinting at?
sure.
Okay. So if you assume that the entire premise is that you're erasing an existing relationship, then you can argue that the whole point of the screenplay is that she is supposed to be seen as an idealized figure. So it's understandable that an audience first would see her as that, because you're missing the idea of, as an audience member, you would initially be missing the idea that this is a real person. So that makes
But you're not looking at this as an idealized version of her. You're looking at this as flat out memories. If it was an idealized version of her, then you wouldn't have the negative memories that are associated with the breakup.
Also, just a slight pause here on the note. The point that I was bringing up about her and comparing her to Ramona Flowers was about 70% what we're talking about. Mainly the reason why I compared it was the writing. Not to say that she didn't have like independence or like independent thought compared to just putting up somebody there like on a pedestal. My thing was, and that was not really a fair comparison when I brought Ramona Flowers. So you look at Ramona Flowers and the character, and I know once again we won't digress too much about her character, but we don't see much as a vocal development. The reason why I brought this up, and Kyle, I think you'll still agree with me on this, and Mike, if you understand me on this, I was just comparing the fact that I felt that she could have been given written more of a script per se, because for example, this big thing on the shirt that I'm wearing right here, in my opinion, it's fantastic, but I felt like it was a default mode to get away from her and more story about him. And now that it's coming out of my mouth, that's basically what it was. The story was about him. So yeah. I'm starting to see a little bit more of, and less a little more of my complaint, and more of like, okay, maybe I'm countering my own statement, and more of it would be interesting if we saw this from her perspective, because I love the fact that, and Eric brought it up. I love that Eric brought it up immediately because I wanted to bring it up. I fucking hate Elijah Wood's character. I'm gonna say it right now with so much passion. I can't stand that little twerp, and I understand that's the premise. You're supposed to hate him. Oh my god, I can't stand him though. I never wanted to drop kick Frodo Baggins so far to the damn fucking sky in my life, ever in my life. Because I was like, yo, stop stealing Jim Carrey's girl. I was still really pissed in that sense. So I get that we're supposed to hate him, and he did a fantastic way of doing it, and it was a great representation of it. But I felt, once again, it was another way to, and once again, this could be a perfect example of snatching a woman's voice, because when he came in, immediately he replicated himself, as you said before, Mike, previously before, of statements that were very iconic to her, from statements that Joel characters made to her, and that when he was repetitive in saying those things, she was having mental breakdowns. It was the areas that felt like that she was, missing something, that part there. So I just felt, once again, on the writing concept, and once again, the only part that I have an issue with, and maybe this is just because I think that Jim Carrey did so well, maybe because Jim Carrey is also notorious for giving his character more than what the directors and what the writers asked for. In my opinion, he fleshes out his characters. He does so well with making you see who he is without saying it. Like, to me, I felt his depression because obviously at the beginning of the line, like you so eloquently put, that he was stating, the statement about Valentine's Day. I mean, I never really, okay. But sorry, I'll let you that later. But once again, it's just one of those things where I just felt like that they could have gave her more. But once again, it's one I'm hesitant to even argue about now, because I'm like, wait a minute, this story was about Joel though, not her, and now I can see why that it is what it is. So I'm confused.
Could we do a part 2? I mean, could we do a part 2? Take the different pieces and put them together. Kyle,
also, they redeemed hydrate, so everybody hydrate.
Hydrate. Sorry, guys.
But sorry. Sting mode, hydrate, and third person.
Could we do a part 2? Put the 2.
Hey, and Eric wasn't the one who did it this time.
I was hoping that Eric wouldn't do anything about this, or we wouldn't get this because Eric is on this call, but unfortunately we can't stop everybody else. So that's horrible. But thank you, Eric, for not doing it. So thank you for being on this call instead.
Just kidding. I think people are great. Keep it up. Keep it up, chat. Keep it up.
Kyle, you were saying...
No, I think I'll pass it on. Kyle will pass it on to Eric. Eric,
are you passing it on so that you don't have to sing and talk in third person?
I'm the punny. Kyle's the punny one, not the funny one. That's Eric.
Why did that sound so about Kyle's? Nice. So Alejandro can't sing, so Alejandro's gonna speak in third person because Alejandro feels very archaic.
Can Alejandro rap?
Alejandro really doesn't think
Alejandro
the world really wants to sing
and not sing because just rap instead.
Alejandro doesn't think he wants to scar the world that way, so he'll hydrate some more.
Eric's just gonna sit here and watch you.
Oh my goodness gracious! So
folks at film, you don't realize this is actually a deep metaphor for the film. You think that something's happening, but it's really not. And then you're confused memory-wise.
This is the part of my memory I'm going to have erased. When I look back on my life, this is not going to exist. I'll be very happy when this... Mike will be very happy when this is erased. Anyway.
Oh, goodness. Okay, I think that's good enough. You guys are good champs. So I'm gonna have to speak for you guys. I think you can speak normally now.
Are we good?
That was enough.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna be real with this.
Alejandro, go for it. Or Eric, Alejandro or Kyle, go for it. Thoughts?
Oh,
Eric.
Wait, say that again.
What's up?
You say that again? You broke up a little bit for me.
Oh, thoughts? Everyone else, if we're done singing.
Oh.
Go ahead, Eric.
No, go ahead, Alejandro.
Oh, God dang it! Okay, I'll go because I know we can digress because we can honestly go 2 hours into this film, but I just wanted to go real quick here. But I'm going to stand really, really hard on my original statement on here. This film is great. After I was talking about it and me bringing up the point with my main argument and actually kind of talking it out and just being, wait a minute, I might move this to actually move up to 4.5 out of 5, realistically speaking on there. But I seriously, if it did not have this cast, it wouldn't have been what it is. And the crazy thing about this too is that for the time being here, this cast was, I'm not saying that, Elijah Wood was unknown. I'm not saying Kristen Dunst was unknown, Kate Winslet, but at the same time, they weren't the names they were today. And so like I said, they were like, oh, up and coming people. This is great. They're, doing well. So I was still impressed that someone saw their skill set and was like, yo, these guys would be great for this cast here. So once again, I think that the casting is the reason why it is. And therefore the actors took something, so eloquent and that was very, very poetic in a sense and delivered it well. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like the casting of this in the movie. Sorry, I'm breaking up, guys.
No, you okay.
But the casting and everything is like perfect, honestly. You have to love the fact that they deep dived so well into getting these characters. And all of them throughout their careers, you've seen them do it a couple of times, but I feel like all of them coming in contact with each other for this film was great and what really brings this film to life. Yeah. Just like Alejandro was saying.
Alejandro's convinced me. I'll up my rating to 4.5 out of 5. Just because I will perpetually ask, less because of a desire to tell a different perspective and more because I really related to Clementine. Not in terms of having been someone that people have, that has behaved, just has been that person that's just so uncomfortable. But I would love to see, I don't know, reading about this and reading that, there's all these things that influenced her character. I would love to see a character like that more. And I would love to see a character like that not put into the position of being Ramona Flowers. And she's not. But lately, since her, we have Ramona.
Of course. To me, I think, honestly, why Clementine and why Joel Barish work, yes, they're sort of slightly exaggerated, but at the same time, when you look at them from a flaws and an assets perspective, they are pretty well fleshed out human type characters. They are messes. And I think that actually is the beautiful thing about this movie. And one of the things that I love about these characters and the screenplay so much, nobody's perfect. And that's the point. Relationships aren't ever perfect. When we love people, we don't love just the ideal of them. We are in this relationship through the good and through the bad. That's the point of this movie, honestly. Humans are messy. They are broken. And that's what we got here in characters like Clementine and like Joel. And I think that to me is the beautiful thing about it. We go through the insecurities of both of these characters at various points in the movie. And that's one of the things that I kind of love about it. Clementine shares with Joel. There's really critical moment in their relationship where she's like, I'm an open book. I tell you everything and you tell me nothing. Going through the memories and the reason why it's important for us to see things through Joel's perspective is because Joel is wishing for a second chance with Clementine. And you know what he's doing in each of these memories? He's taking the memory of her and going through the most deep, heartbreaking, embarrassing, shameful moments that he never got a chance to share with her when they were together in a relationship. That is the most heartbreaking thing about all of this, and one of the things that I love about all of this. When when he's showing her him masturbating at like 12 when the mom catches him, awesome, and probably the most and the deepest part of shame that he has is the bird scene where he's being told by the bullies to destroy the bird. That's a heartbreaking moment. It goes back into, and this is the humanity of it all. Clementine tells Joel, like, people underestimate how hard it is to be a kid. They share with each other deep memories and deep traumatic memories at that about what their childhoods were like, with the bird scene with Joel. But then even with Clementine, where she tells him, I had a doll and it was an ugly girl doll once, and I named her Clementine. And I just told her, I just want you to be pretty, that's her insecurities about the way that she looks and the way that she feels about herself, that she's sharing with Joel. This is something that we've all felt in our lives. These moments of deep shame, these moments of insecurity, these moments about ourselves that we don't like. There's nothing more human than that. And for Charlie Kaufman to touch upon that for all of us, it makes for probably the most human and relatable moments that I've seen in cinema in a long time. Kyle, I'm sorry. I feel like I got you emotional there. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do, and I'm not trying to call you out, but it sounds like you might have a lot that you're thinking about, and I definitely want to give you some time to chat about that too, if you'd like.
That's part of that. That was the part that made me cry the most.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, it's fine. It's just it's the truth, and I stand by what I stand by my I stand by my feeling that, I don't know. I stand by my feeling that going through something so personal, the story that this told for me was the idea of trying to open up and be human with something with something that seemed unobtainable, but that turned out to be just as human as you are. And that to me is the essence of a good relationship, is that when you see someone who is unobtainable, who doesn't seem like they're who doesn't seem like you can talk to them, or doesn't seem like you're on that same level as they are, and then you're willing to open up to them and you realize that it's just the same thing. And that to me was but no, her whole thing with that stupid doll made me really sad.
Yeah.
So, because I think that's something, especially that every person who's born female has gone through. And yeah, so I'm good. I'll be good.
It's a powerful scene for sure. And it's incredibly human and relatable. Did anyone want to add to this?
I didn't mean to make everything awkward. I'm sorry.
No,
it's fine.
No, you didn't make anything awkward. I think you just kind of nailed like a point. Like everybody had these kind of nailed a point on the head, or hit the head head of the nail. Whatever the point is I'm trying to make, but the statement I'm trying to make. Because when this movie came out, when I saw it, it originally was in 2000 and what was it? 2000 and shoot, I have to look this up now. It's
gonna
Thank you. Yeah, it was my graduation year, and when it came out, we all get those movies. When this movie came out, I don't really think a lot of people thought this was going to be like, don't get me wrong. And Mike, you brought an excellent point. There should have been some Oscar-worthy concepts of it. It should have been nominated for something. But at the same time, there's a lot of intense movies that have great monologues that come up. I mean, Kyle, you were hit in the heart. Like I said, I'm getting teary-eyed just thinking about it. There's a lot of moments you can hear. Think of heartbreak. Think of how, bringing somebody in, letting them in, or letting somebody in, and then all of a sudden them leaving your life, and you're doing your best to get them back. And and ironically, both you guys have a different point of view in that perspective, and that whole concept of it. But once again, the reason why I'm saying that this is such a great thing to listen and express, hearing from Kyle, Mike, Eric, just because how much this movie has meant to a lot of people. And realistically speaking, when this movie came out, I didn't think about it that way. I was like, "Oh man, this is artistic, fancy movie. This is great. This gave comedians an opportunity to come out and be funny." Because look, think about it. Mark Ruffalo, Elijah Wood, Kirsten Dunst, Jim Carrey. They're all part of comedic scene. Even honestly, Kate Winslet was also part of the comedic scene. The love, the drama, the comedy concept. So I mean, everybody had this comedic concept, and I think that was fascinating. That and Mike, you mentioned this before, and Eric, you brought it fault wise, that when you have Kyle, you brought up a big point of this as well. When you express so much joy, have so much happiness inside you, you know how to do that. Realistically speaking, I don't think you really feel the happiness until you know the darkness of it, in a sense. So I think that they had the ability to go ahead and express that here, and this movie being meaningful a lot more people than they expected. I think that's the reason why it was. So it's fascinating. Kyle, you open your heart. Mike, you expressing how much you thought this was an artistic masterpiece. Eric, even coming in the concepts, you mentioning that you didn't expect, like me, you didn't expect this movie to be something, and that it meant more to you than you expected in the end of it in general. Thinking back to 2004, that was not my initial, take of this film. And so it's kind of like just in a sense, a beautiful, cheesy realization in the end that is out what it turned out to be. So yeah.
I love that, Alejandro. Eric, anything that you wanted to add?
Yeah, no, I feel that this movie is just a very good encapsulation of, like you were saying, people's emotions and dealing with different aspects of your life, of not getting the girl, of obsessing over a girl, of like completely wanting to forget about something that hurts so much and everything like that. It's just a beautiful glimpse into the mind of all of these people, and to show vulnerability and bring that out, like how it brought it out in Kyle. But it's just beautiful that it's able to encapsulate that, and that they were able to do it.
I think that at the end of the day, that's what this movie's about, is what it means to be human, what it means to be the messes that we are, the good and the bad of it, the beauty and the pain. And I think that that's my favorite thing about this. When I watch this, this is the epitome of everything that I look for in a movie, which is something that breaks my heart but makes me smile at the same time. And I think that that's rare in motion pictures these days. I kind of like feeling pain and I like feeling sadness when I go to a movie, because I know that a movie's making me feel something, and I think that this is the movie that hits me no matter how many times I watch it, in the feels every single time. So that's my final thought on that. I want to just go around, do quick final thoughts, and then potentially a wrap up, if that's okay with you guys. Kyle, final thoughts.
I think movies like this are why I can give you two final thoughts. I can give you the open heart final thought, and I'll be brief on that because I am a little embarrassed. I got emotional, and I'll give you the real thought. The real world thought. Real world thought first. Not to make everything a political cause, but this is why movies like this are proof that AI is bad, because I don't think AI would give us something like this.
No.
It never would. And then the emotional thought is that honestly, it wasn't until I was talking it out with other people that I realized that really a sense of idealizing someone and then being able to open up to them is the core of what this is. And realizing that two people who you look at are on a pedestal and are just, it's just, it opened a lot. I'm not the kind of person that gets really, attached to people, so that just it's a good movie. I mean, I still stand by my 4.5, mostly because I really do want to see something about the more female aspect of it. But you know what I was thinking when Alejandro said female? I was thinking of Poor Things, which is that same exploration. Not deep emotional human connections, not about relationships or romance, but a similar exploration of what it means to be a person. And that's definitely taken from a female perspective. So, and it also
Kyle,
has Mark Ruffalo in it, in a weird role.
Yeah. Kyle, I wanted to say thank you for opening up to us, by the way, on this call. I think I don't, I know, first off, you have nothing to feel embarrassed about. Like, I love that you did this. If you're going to do this on any of the Nom Talk basic binges shows, this is the one to do it in, because this is literally the movie that we're talking about that embodies like humanity, inside, outside, mess, and beauty. And this is what we got from you. So I'm so grateful that you found that you were comfortable enough to speak to all of this and to feel the way that you did with us. So that was beautiful, and thank you so much for that. Yeah, where can everyone find you?
You can find me, Kyle Poddig at Blue Sky, Kyle Poddig Arts at Threads, and Caroline_cosplay at TikTok for however long we have TikTok left. So
you are such a beautiful human being, Kyle. Thank you so much for sharing this with us and talking about this with us. Erric, final thoughts from you?
Definitely rewatching this movie after it's been so long has opened my mind to liking it. Like I said, it would have gotten a lower score for me. It did when it originally came out, but now that we're older, definitely go back and like look at it and watch it, because it's gonna hit something different than you that you're not expecting. But yeah, definitely love this movie. Love it. And then you can find me on all places except for the Bird app, Twitter app, whatever it's called, at Heartless7. That's HARTL, the number 7.
And if you're hosting a show that Erric is not part of, you'll find him in the chat making you do crazy shit for the entirety of the hour. No, I'm kidding. We love you, Erric. Thank you so much for being here and for doing this with us, and for really sharing this with us as well. And for not being the one to make us sing today. So I appreciate that. Any other thoughts before I move on to Alejandro? Okay. Alejandro, final thoughts for you.
No, I think I've interrupted enough and gave thoughts-wise in regards to the film and opinion-wise of it. So,
wonderful insight, just for the record. Brilliant.
Yeah, but appreciate that. But like I said, I'll be a little of a mockingbird on this. Once again, the film originally when I saw it I thought it was just one of those artistic excuses to put comedians in the spotlight in a different setting. And then once actually getting to see this and seeing them actually pour their heart out and allowing them their bodies to be hypothetical canvas really opened my eyes on this thing. So it was really great in that aspect. Other than that, you can find me on my shenanigans over in Instagram at Alejandro. Well, actually, I kind of backpedal on that. It's going to be IAMCOWIE. I am Cowie. Find me on my nerdy concepts as Cowie Collector, COWIE, well, Cowie Collector, you know how to spell that, on Instagram. And then TikTok, Alejandro.Cowie. And the only place I'll ever dead name is going to be X. So, Twitter. Something. I apologize. I can't. The place, okay?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's where you can find me.
Excellent. As far as I've given you guys my final thoughts, but I do want to give one last shout out to Q, to Tim, to everyone out there who's watching. You guys are the lifeblood of this channel. We can't do this without you, and we are so grateful for it. I didn't say this at the top of the show as well, but we are supporting and we'll be supporting the Trevor Project as well for the foreseeable Nom Talks and basic binges. Please continue to do some good and contribute and donate to that, because it's such a wonderful cause. And I've been your host, Mike Manalo, at TidyBowlBoy182, Instagram and Twitter. And also you can find my work on thenerdsofcolor.org, whattowatch.com, and that's at LA. Until next time, folks, how happy are the blameless vegetables lot? The world forgetting by the world forgot. Eternal sunshine of the spotless mind. Each prayer. Fuck, what's the rest of it? Something resigned. I should have read that, guys. Bye.
Very good.
Bye.